beautiful Amazon. So the first things to note is I've gone ahead and built up just the basic guide of what all of the stats are and everything, right? So we have strength, dexterity, vitality, and energy on the Amazon here. You can see what they are. They're starting values. So she starts with pretty good dexterity. She's a very balanced character in her start. Her hit points 50, her mana 15, pretty low, and stamina 84 right there, right? So important things to note. The first one is I want you to go to the top right and look. Each character level. This means when I level up, I am just gaining stats. And a lot of people don't realize this. They think all of your stats come from, like, if I put a point in vitality or something like that. They don't realize that your character level is actually going to increase all of your base stats there, right? Or not your stats, but your life, mana, stamina, whatever, right? So for a character level, she gains 2 life, she gains 1.5 mana, and she gains 1 stamina. Then, additionally, you have the stat per effect. Miss Kylie, thank you for the host. Also, Cookie Monster, welcome back for 2 months in a row. Appreciate that. Then if we go down to the bottom left, we have the stat per effect. And this is also different, and a lot of people don't realize this. A lot of people don't realize that each character has a different... Hi, Kylie. Has a different amount of life and energy, things that they gain or mana they gain for every stat point. So putting a stat point in energy on a sorceress is different than putting it in on a barbarian or anything like that. So it's important to note, and you'll see as we go through different characters, kind of how these balance out. 3 is pretty middle of the line on life. Everybody pretty much gets 1 stamina except Assassin, and 1.5 mana is pretty middle of the line. So this character as a whole really runs down the middle in terms of everything. I would say 3 life is a little bit better, right? That's kind of a nicer one to have. Just because when you get those ones that have 2+2 to life, it's so brutal. You just have no life gain whatsoever. So every level, if I level up, I get +2 to life. And then if I put 5 points in vitality, I get 15. So I can get 17 to life per level on this character. That's very, very solid compared to a lot of other characters that are going to get a lot less than that. So it's a pretty solid life gainable character there. Now let's talk a little bit about some of her breakpoints here. Faster hit recovery, faster cast rate, and faster block rate. Her faster hit recovery, pretty good. Starting at 11 for 0%. And the way that I want you to read this is the percentage on the left is what percentage that the character has. Once again, remember, any number between these is irrelevant. It always will round up, or round down, I should say, to the lowest number. So if I have 5% faster hit recovery, that's the same as having 0% faster hit recovery. And that's very important to note. A lot of people think, oh, well, I got always better to have a little bit more. It's not always in these cases. If it's not getting you to the next breakpoint, it does absolutely nothing. This will be on YouTube, yes. So the faster hit recovery frames, pretty good. On the left side, that's how much you have. On the right side, that's the number of frames it takes. So if it takes me, when I have 0% faster hit recovery, it takes me 11 frames to recover. And remember, this is if I get hit. If somebody hits me, and the Amazon's a little weird, this is if I'm getting hit with anything except a one-handed weapon or a two-handed sword being held in one hand. And then I have slightly different faster hit recovery and faster block rate, I believe. The Amazon and there's a couple little minor discrepancies for like a couple characters with that stuff. But for the most part, this is how it looks. So what you want to look at really here is it doesn't take a lot to really knock down each frame. And on a game that runs at 25 FPS, going from 11 frames to like 7 frames, let's say, or 8 frames, if you can drop 3 frames right there, so now instead of 11, it's now 10, 9, 8, that is actually a lot of time. Because every frame is 0.04 seconds, right? If we're just multiplying 25 times 0.04 to get our, right, whatever it is, right, or 1 second divided by. Every frame, or wait, did I do that right? That's Yeah. No. Yes. I can't do math right now. I'm trying to stream and do math. And it's tough. Yeah. That sounds right to me. That sounds right. Every frame is 0.04 seconds. I'm just going with it. Sorry. For some reason, I got off there. Every frame is 0.04 seconds. So, those add up, right? And you're suddenly looking at 0.32 seconds if I'm at 8 frames versus 0.44 seconds. I mean, it's a lot, and you really feel it in the game. So I know if you are sitting there at home and you're saying, Mr. Llama, that's nothing, right? Like, a second, 1 Mississippi. Done. That was a second. That's it. But when you're sitting there and somebody's like bashing on you and hitting you and you're trying to cast a spell or recover so you can start running again, whatever it is, all of those little frames really, really add up. So this is very important to note. So she's got pretty good faster hit recovery. That's one of the things. Plus she has her skills, evade, dodge, all of that stuff, which will also add into her dodging and doing all sorts of stuff for making it so people can't hit her. But that's like creating your own faster recovery. And that can actually be kind of not as great sometimes. But, well, that's something to discuss a little bit later. Her faster cast rate is atrocious. Atrocious. Look at that. 0% faster cast rate takes 19 frames. That is almost a whole second for her to cast something. Now, granted, she's generally not casting things, but if you have something like an Enigma or a teleport staff, teleport amulet, whatever it is, that is so bad. Right? Like just to teleport one time or cast one thing. Awful. God awful. She has, I mean, this is some of the worst FCR in the game, right? Terrible, terrible, terrible. You have to know that. And so if you're doing stuff that requires casting from the Amazon, which, like I say, most of the time you're not, but if you're trying to teleport with her or something like that, know that she's going to be very slow. And there's a lot of chance to be interrupted. Within that 19 frames, there's a lot of chance for her to be interrupted. For faster block rate, pretty good. It's pretty good right here, right? So you can see when she blocks, especially if you can just get a little bit of faster block rate, 13, 32%, whatever. Obviously, you're not going to get like 600% or anything, but you get a little bit. That's decent. 4 frames, 4 or 5 frames. That is not bad. So her block rate's pretty good. So looking at this, if we take a step back and look at the Amazon, we can say, okay, I want to probably bumping her dexterity is probably not a terrible idea. If I can run max block on her and it can be decent. Right? That's not bad. Additionally, her faster hit recovery is decent. I could avoid that. I could go pure vitality on her. Her life gain is amazing at 3 life per vitality point, right? That's really good. So if I can put more points into vitality, I can live with that. That's something you can kind of waver back and forth on her if you wish to be blocking more or just pumping everything into vitality. Strength is just going to be for strength to use. And energy, right, for gear. And her energy, her 1.5 per mana per energy point. It's okay. Maybe get a few points, not like on Battle.net, but like singles player early, things like that, until later on where you can always sustain it, because a lot of her skills do take a lot of mana. So let's go ahead and pop this down, and let's hop in to our Amazon. Okay. So I'm using pluggies so this way I can reset skills and stats and things like that, and we can kind of talk about it. So first thing to note, and I'm going to do this just for Ubio because he's talking about you can get quite a lot of energy on a cold zone. Yeah, I mean, if I'm shooting and it's 18.5, right? 18.5 mana per shot. And let's pretend like I have a bow that is, very, very good attack speed. Something like that. Okay. Why can't I shoot my freezing arrows? I don't have enough mana yet. So I can't even use it for... There we go. So... Sometimes you might want to... No, I haven't done Druid yet. Sometimes... Right? You can see how much mana it takes and how easily you can just burn out of it. And so it's one of those things where it's like, maybe getting a little bit more energy there for a cold, or even exploding arrow is similar, right? Its mana cost is going to go up. Multi-shot's mana cost will go up. A lot of bow skills have an increasing. Guided arrow actually goes down, but multi-shot really goes up. So if you're sitting there and you want to just spam out some multi-shots, right? It takes a lot of mana. So you just want to kind of figure that out. And like I say, as you're leveling up and progressing, putting a point here isn't the worst thing ever, because I'm getting 1.5 mana per. It's not a terrible investment for an energy point, but you are sacrificing 3 life every single time, right? You are sacrificing 3 life every single time. So let's look at a little bit of different things that I can do with this character, right? Let's go ahead and take some looks. Like I said, the first thing that I can do is I can go for max block. And if I get like a bone shield or something like that, I can sit there and I can bump it up. And obviously, you know, I'd have something better here. But I can bump up my dexterity, and with a decent shield, you know, I probably put in like 150 something dexterity, and I get my chance to block up to 75%. You can do that if you would like, right? Like I say, a lot of people are just gonna put some strength in, enough to use gear, and then I'll have my torch, my annihilus, whatever not. And then maybe some dex if they want to get block. Otherwise, they'll probably skip dex. Maybe some energy if they want some mana. Otherwise, they'll skip that. That depends on how much mana they get. And then everything else will probably go into vitality, such as this. Because this brings you up to really, really good life totals. Add on life that I'm going to get from gear. Add on battle orders. She's going to become very tanky. Okay? Now let's take a look over at some builds, because this is more the important stuff to focus on, right? Stats, you're either going max block and getting dexterity for that. On a boson, you put all the dex. Okay, well, that's for your damage, I guess, right? So you could put some to dex there for damage. But you're really just going to either be in dexterity or in vitality for your character, right? One of the two. But stats are less so. More so, let's look over here at this character. So, some things to note. The first one is dodge, avoid, and evade. Usually are kind of 1-point wonders. You let like plus to skills kind of bump them up, I would say. When you do these dodges, it will actually take a little bit of time. So you can lock yourself up if you're trying to dodge, and there's like a giant group of things, and it can disrupt your chances for hitting things. But a lot of people like to get this. I don't like to get this until I have to, which is when I want to get a Valkyrie. Because the Valkyrie is amazing. The Valkyrie is probably the best summon minion in the game. And you can see here as I bump it up, look at just everything that it has. And this is without plus skills, right? 2200 life, 475% damage, 800% attack rating, defense bonus, and all of these things help her. Critical strike would help her, so when you get your point there, that's helping her out. Penetrate's gonna help as well, which you're gonna get some points there. Decoy will bump her up as well. Like, Valkyrie, you can literally beat the entire game with just a Valkyrie. And you just stand behind the Valkyrie and let the Valkyrie do everything that you want. Like, you can literally just, whatever you want. You just say, hey, Valkyrie, come take care of this for me. Right? And I have to get more mana to summon my current one, but just summon her. So you just sit there and she'll just kill everything. She'll just kill everything. Yeah, this is normal, but you take her to hell, she'll do the same thing. And whenever she's dying, you just resummon her. Very, very, very good skill to get. Other things to really look at. Critical strike. Your attacks have a chance to do double damage. This is physical damage will be doubled. Very important to note, okay? This is her physical damage, not her lightning damage, her fire damage. Whatever it is from that piece, if I'm shooting an exploding arrow, the physical damage from the arrow hitting is what will get doubled, not the fire damage that's added on. A lot of people think that they're getting a lot more value from this than they actually are, okay? Penetrate, just to increase your attack rating, right? So this can be another one that you're just dumping a point in, so then your attack rating will go up, because when you have all your plus skills and things like that from your gear, whatever, gonna be really nice. Huge for a strafe zone, yeah. Very good for strafe, right, to do the double damage. If you're doing physical attacks like this, it's very good to have that. And lastly is Pierce. I love Pierce. Pierce is great. Okay, Pierce is great. Pierce is the chance that the missile, your bow, your javelin, whatever it is, will pass through the enemy that you hit. So it'll hit them and also go through and continue. And if you guys have ever seen the guided arrow that goes back and forth over and over and over again, right? That is where you're seeing it from. Where's my... Oh. Where's my guided arrow at? Did I not? Oh, I need to get guided. Okay. That doesn't work like that anymore, but I know. That's from what it used to be. Okay. That's from what it used to be. I can't hit anything right now. What the heck is going on? Why can't I hit stuff? What is going on? I can't even pretend to act like I know what's happening. What is happening? I'm very confused. Yeah, this is normal. Alright, this is some hero editor bug. So just ignore this. Did that fix it? Did weapon swapping fix it? Yeah, okay. I had to weapon swap. Okay, so. That's crazy. But yeah, so what this will allow is it can continue through a monster to go on. Okay. We'll just do it with some javelins. We'll throw a javelin here and go here to show it. Because that was crazy. Thank you, Skate. That was crazy. So, oh man, these are gonna be tough areas to show. Show with multi-shot. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Multi-shot. There you go. So you can see the arrows hit them, but then continued through as well. Cold arrow would also be a good show, right? You'll see that it's going to hit the first person and then continues through to hit the second person as well. Okay. So basically it's amazing because a lot of the Amazon's skills, okay, a lot of the Amazon skills are things that, like, when they get a hit, it's amazing. And if you can make it hit multiple guys and then they'll keep spreading or keep blowing up in multiple sections, it does so much more damage. It's kind of insanely good. So note that is all I can say. So once again, let's look at, we should come back and we should really look at a character now, right? So let's say I want to build a Javelin, okay? First things that I want to note, Lightning Fury is your big mama. This is your skill that you want to make love to right here, okay? This skill is going to just put you in a fantastic place. And let's go back and just set it. Okay, this is the skill that you see that blows up the world, right? I'm going to throw one javelin. Okay. That right there is, it hits and it explodes out in this big area. And the more that you combine everything together, the more that you bring in just a bigger cluster, the better it is. Because on that impact, it splits. And then when you have Pierce as well, right? If I have Pierce as well, now it'll hit and split, continue through, hit another guy, split again, right? The continue through for the multi-split it's disgusting. And you'll just see things. This is almost looks like PoE. Thank you, Runfish. This almost looks like PoE, where everything just goes, right, and kind of like propagates out in this giant explosion. So if I am building this Lightning Fury, I am here. And then you can also look and you say, what's my thing that I'm doing when I'm closer, right? If I'm closer to monsters, or I'm trying to target down a boss, I'm using Charged Bolt. Now, Charged Bolt is amazing because it releases multiple bolts, releases 7 charged bolts. And so if I'm up there and I stab a guy, from that close, all of the charged bolts, it's kind of buggy, glitchy, you could almost say. Or Charged Strike, sorry. Not bolt, but yeah, it releases charged bolts. So it's almost kind of buggy, right? Like, you can kill the Ubers with Charged Bolt from a sorceress or from this character, whatever it is, because all the bolts, instead of spreading out and then just doing like 1,000 damage here, 1,000 damage, 500, 200, 800 damage, like that, they all hit right at the start of the impact, and so you get every bolt doing damage. So you can like 2 or 3 shot Bale in hell with Charged Strike, because you just go and it's all of the bolts try and release, and he's such a big target that it just hits him and kills him. This is probably the strongest skill in the game in terms of, yeah, it's not like Teeth. That's what makes Teeth suck, honestly. If Teeth had that, it would be way better. So, very, very good, right? Very, very, very good skill that has the follow-through bolts, plus you get the bolts on the hit. Super, super, super good. So these are your skills right here. These are your 2 skills that, as a Javazon, you want to care about for damage and damage. And I run exactly like this. Charge Strike on my left, Lightning Fury on my right. I throw when I'm far, and I hit when I'm close on that. Now, of course, you want to look at, well, what else does it get from Lightning Strike and Power Strike? So I'm going to be putting up Power Strike, Lightning Strike. But before I do this, I'm going to want to make sure I have a few points in Pierce. Or, if I have enough plus to skills, I could just put 1 point in there. Because you can see, obviously, you know, it starts to kind of slow down. 20 points is 85%, which is great. But you can kind of decide how many points you want to put into Pierce. I like to go for like 50 to 60% chance for it to follow through. But a lot of people like to put stuff in there. And then as well, if you want to get a Valkyrie, you can get a Valkyrie. If you want to have dodge, avoid, evade, they can be very good. To get that Valkyrie, you have to have those. But like I say, they can also be annoying because they can make your character kind of dodge, twitch every time you're trying to hit stuff. So that's kind of up to you. Once again, Critical Strike, not going to do anything for this character, so avoid that. This is if you want that lightning. And so then I would, like I say, just finish off pumping up Power Strike or Lightning Strike for synergies. Am I using these? Nah, not really. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm probably not putting anything in the bow tree there. Passives, I'm just going to be Pierce, just 1 and Penetrate. I don't care about attack rating because when I'm doing stuff like Charge Strike, the bolts are still releasing there. So even if I'm not hitting, the bolt still gets released. It still does a ton of damage. Okay. So We need faster hit rate to work with the dodge and evade. Yeah. Faster recovery. So yeah, how do you deal with lightning immunes? Which is a great question. So, let's say that I've made this character. How do I deal with lightning immunes? One, if I have something like Titans, the physical damage on Titans is enough that I can actually whittle them down. So if I want, I can sit there and just whack, 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 right? And I can actually hit things, whittle them down, make it a little more difficult for them. Additionally, I could try and throw out some poison stuff. Probably not going to do that, though. Mercenaries can be very helpful. Infinity is a huge one if I can get an Infinity on my Mercenary. Or I can buy a lower res wand with charges and just have that on my swap. So then whenever I encounter them, I can cast low resistance on them and kill them. Last thing I can do is I can just skip them. If it's not critical, like Maddock is lightning immune, I have to kill him. So I'm going to need to have low resist on him, plus for him to not be like lightning enchanted or something. Okay. I need to do that, and then I'll be fine. But if I'm lightning other than that, and if I can't, or if I don't have that, whatever it is, you just got to kind of skip sometimes. That's just how it goes, right? Not every monster group do you have to kill. But if you have physical enough javelins, you can generally do enough damage to be fine. So yeah, this is kind of what my character looks like, and then once again I can run like this if I want, because having a Valkyrie, especially when you've got extra points to it, is super nice, and she'll help you survive a ton. So I'd say this is what your build's gonna look like right here for kind of that. Hey Yama. Now if I want to run, you're generally not gonna run poison, right? Poison can be great early on. It's used in speedrunning obviously for the first few levels, but it eventually gets kind of meh. If you want Valkyrie damage, get her to level 17. There you go. That's Ubio's. She gets a war pike at level 17. Perfect. There you go. That's a pro tip. Get her to level 17, and then her equipment will upgrade, and she'll get a war pike. You can run a Fendazon. I've seen people do it, or like Impale, right? They just get a big old spear and run that. Not going to be as effective as this, but it can work, okay? And there you're just kind of maxing that, whichever one you want. I've seen it, but like I say, Javazon, when people talk about Javazon, they're talking Charge Strike and Lightning Fury. Now, if you want to be a Bozon, you actually have a lot of options here, okay? That was interesting that she survived until I placed a skill point. First thing is a Strafeson. A lot of people like to be Strafeson. Okay. And what this does is this is going to essentially allow me to shoot a bunch of targets, but I have to stand still to shoot each one. So let's see if we can grab a couple more than that. Here we go. Right? So she's going to spin around in a giant circle and shoot everybody on one click. Pretty cool. With this, you need attack rating though. Okay, so penetrate all of a sudden is becoming a lot more important. Okay, this is a lot more important to have good attack rating because you want to make sure that you're hitting things. Pierce can also be very good in these situations, right? Pierce is pretty good with everything that you're getting. Critical Strike can also be good. So I honestly am fine with putting a few points into these passives over here, especially because Strafe doesn't have any synergies. So if I'm getting Strafe, boom, I've dumped 20 points into it. Now what? Right? Now what do I do? If I want to have a little bit of like a guided arrow on my main hand, I can do that. Right? So I could set guided arrow and have that be for my like main shot, and then I can strafe whenever there's a big group. Strafe has next delay. Yes, that's right, it does. They don't need to know about that. If I want to do multi-shot, this is really good if you have a really strong weapon, like Ubio was saying. Very strong weapon, multi-shot can be very good. And you can just sit there and let's do this number. Right. And oops. and I can sit there and just spray it out. Okay. So I can sit there and just get a nice spray. And you can see the further out my cursor is versus closer in, how the arrows go, right? You can kind of choose how narrow or how wide you're shooting based on how close to your body you're shooting. And when I'm like on top of myself, I'm shooting full arc. So pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. Go to Act 2 so we can see better. I don't think I set it up for me to have Act 2. So can I talk to Ward Eve? Nope. Yeah, I don't have question. Okay. Regardless, your spread pattern, that's true with all skills. Or most skills, I should say. Any skill like that that has a good spread. Can you land multiple arrows on one target with that? I believe so, right? I believe it's not like teeth. So you should be able to hit multiples with one. But yeah, so this only takes one arrow. A lot of people think it takes a lot more. No, it takes one arrow, but you get that max spread. So it's very, very good damage. So if I'm pumping in one of these, I'm probably over in my passive tree, pumping up all my passives, right? And we can once again kind of talk through. Inner sight, you're probably never going to use inner sight. It's okay. Yeah, it lowers defense, right? So it's good, but you probably won't use it. Slow missiles, you also probably won't use unless you just want to like troll somebody. And okay, good. So now you can put that over them. It slows down their missiles. Decoy is actually really good. Decoy is a skill a lot of people, I would say, don't use, but just creates a decoy of yourself, and you can have it out while you have your Zon as well. Okay, and she'll just sit there and be a tank that doesn't move. So she's just there to pretend like she's you. That's all. But she can be pretty tanky. So I like decoys a lot. In general. What do I like doing for a boson? If you want to be that physical boson, which in hell, this is a very strong thing to do because of immunities, right? So you can just play, yeah, it is Ubio. So you can just play with strafe, multi-shot, whatever, right? If you have a very strong bow or good, you need at least like a Bariza or something of that nature to really make her decent for that damage, right? If you have, you can see what I have in here. Zephyr. I don't think I have any really strong bows in here. If you want, though, if you don't have something as good as that, and you just have good attack speed, you can either play the freezing arrow game, which is a very, very good skill. It freezes a group of monsters, does pretty good damage. You can see right there, just maxing this without even the synergies max is 347 to 358. So this is where you say, okay, it doesn't matter how much damage my bow does. And I'm going to show this with our magical edge. Let's go with that, sure. Okay, so we have an edge bow. So the edge bow only does 2 to 6 damage. Forget the thorns. 2 to 6 damage. Yeah, it's got some damage for demons and undead and things like that. But my freezing arrow does 1,000 damage per shot. Over 1,000 cold damage with a good AoE. Is it wrong synergy? Cold arrow, ice arrow? No, it's not. What are you talking about? Right, with good AoE. So it's one of those where you can just sit there and shoot off a lot of them. It doesn't matter. Ice just gives freeze length. Yeah, I mean, I did both. Right. It doesn't matter that you don't have good damage on your bow, because that's not what the damage is. This bow does 77 to 83 damage. I'm not caring about that. Everything I'm caring about is the giant explosion. So if I'm running this, once again, I am running for pierce. I want to make sure that I'm piercing because I want that explosion. You saw how big that AoE was? If that can pierce through and go another little distance and do it again right behind it, I get 2 of those explosions. So good. So good, right? This is why I love the Amazon. She's one of my favorite characters, actually, because of how beautiful that is. You saw it right there. Explosion, 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 right? All of that pierce right there. That was only 6 pierce too. Just goes through and procs and hits multiple monsters. And there's another one back there. Right. Super good. But once again, when you get to hell, yes, you're going to have people. Yeah, okay. A lot of people wouldn't put the synergies into Ice Arrow, they're saying, because that's just added to freeze length. So right now, if I'm in hell, I am freezing for 4 seconds. So anybody that gets frozen for 4 seconds. So they're saying, no, you go here, you just max Cold Arrow. And you can freeze them, then hit with Strafe Multi if you want. Right, exactly. You don't have to freeze them with, and that's a good point. It only adds 2 seconds, so it's not quite worth for Ice Arrow. So I'm going bam, bam, and then I'm over here in my tree, and I'm doing this stuff again. And maybe I'm bumping my Valkyrie up and getting a massive Valkyrie. Maybe I'm increasing my Pierce. I don't really need Penetrate for this one, so I'm not going Penetrate. I don't really need Critical Strike. So I'm just going Pierce, and I can play around with bumping up all these things however I like, right? Because I have a ton of extra skills over here. You know? And I'm not getting anything in that tree. I'm not getting anything over on this stuff unless I wanted to get something like Guided Arrow to finish off whatever it is. But yeah, then I can just bump everything up and have really good percentages for all of this stuff. Increase my decoy and have an amazing Valkyrie. That, you know, my Valkyrie is gonna be the biggest tank in the world right now, 3168 life, and I can sit in the back and just freeze everything. This right here is a pretty winning combination. You could beat hell with this. I mean, you don't even need all those points. I can max this, right? Max freezing and Cold Arrow, and then kind of dump everything else towards Valkyrie, and I can go beat hell. Because anything I can't kill, my Valkyrie can kill. Easy as that. And that's just for the cold mutants. Is Mavset any good in hell? Yeah, Mavset will do just fine in hell. And Ubio had a tip. He said, each source of cold damage on your gear increases freeze length. Well, there you go. It's a fun little tip. I didn't even know that one. So that is a great Boazon. What's another good Boazon? Exploding Arrow. I don't like Immolation Arrow that much. I really don't. So I'm going to bump my Exploding Arrow up. I'm going to bump my Fire Arrow up. And this is one that I really love through end of normal to middle of nightmare. I really like this character. This is very much the exact idea as Freezing Arrow. Javelin bow with correct gear, sure, but not everybody's gonna have all the correct gear, everything like that, and some people just want to play a Boazon, you know. But this is got that same sort of exploding. I kind of blew up all the mobs here. I want to get more of a grouping so I can show you, right? Same sort of idea. You get that big old explosion. So I'm rocking that. I'm rocking the same thing over here. I like to have like this many points, 5-6 points in Pierce. And you can put, of course, more if you want to increase that chance a little bit. If you want to get over to that Valkyrie, you can, because it leaves you a lot of points as well. Immolation Arrow, though, not great. But I'm doing 438 to 506 damage with this. This is why I say this is solid for mid game, right? Yeah, 69 Pierce is pretty good, exactly. This is solid for mid game, right here. Right, and when you get Pierce with it as well, it's just going to do really, really well. So that kind of takes you, let's go back in. That kind of takes you through some combinations that you can do. You can run a cold, where you're going Freezing Arrow and Cold Arrow. You can run Exploding Arrow. And don't forget, you can respec throughout the game. So if I'm sitting there and I'm like, I want to make a Boazon, and I want her to be a freezing arrow Boazon, and then I go, what do I do for the first 29 levels? Cold arrow kind of sucks just to have cold arrow and blah, 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 you know. It's okay to run something else first and then respec into it. So running exploding arrow from level 12 on is actually pretty strong. Or you can start out and you can run poison javelin for a while with some power strike, and then you can switch over and go to freezing arrow when you hit level 30 or 31, whatever, right? Remember that you don't have to always build exactly that. But the Boazon is pretty strong. Like I say, you have your cold Zon, you have your physical Zon where you can run strafe with guided up front. You can run multi-shot if you have a really strong bow. Or you can run exploding arrow. Immolation arrow, like I say, I don't really like it that much. Just not that great. One thing to note about Bozons, they're very weak against bosses. They're strong against other characters, but against bosses, their killing potential isn't as strong, so they're going to take a lot longer to kill. This is also why it can be really nice to have a Valkyrie. If you can have a Valkyrie that can sit there and tank for a little bit, that is so much more helpful than having to try and run away, shoot an arrow, run away, shoot an arrow, run, you know, like, oh, there's some really slow bow fights. So know that. Over here, right, Javazon, you're running Charge Strike and Lightning Fury. That's pretty much what you're running. You could run Fend or something of that nature if you want to run with a spear and just have some fun. Not a recommended starter build, though. Definitely recommend you get on these. And to start out, Poison Javelin is a fabulous starter. Fabulous. This is what we do for speedrunning, right? When I'm speedrunning, you're going to see me running with Poison Javelin. Because it's so good. I mean, look at that damage. This is, if I'm level 11, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Level 10, I could have already 150 to 175 damage. And then I just throw it out. They walk into the line of poison, and they die. Easy as that. So, know that this is a pretty good option for very early game, but eventually poison gets pretty meh. Plague Javelin's nothing to really write home about either. You might sit there and be like, but look at all that poison damage you're doing, Mr. Llama. Yeah, but it really just, you know, yeah, that's 10k poison damage. But later on, it's just, I don't know, it really doesn't do enough. It really just doesn't do enough damage. It's kind of the issue with it. So most people aren't going to be running. Yeah, and the reason is because it's over 10 seconds, exactly. The poison damage is not done immediately, and this is over 46 seconds. So this is 10k damage over 46 seconds. Okay. Let me not die here. So that's basically no damage, and you're seeing it because this is in easy, right? This is normal. And this is 5,600 damage over 10 seconds. So 500 damage a second. You're just not getting near as much damage. Okay. So really, really, really note that kind of hurts there. But those are kind of some Amazon builds for you to kind of think about. Thank you, Baby and Us. Those are just some kind of things to really think about with that, with the character. And once again, we can bring up, right, her stats and kind of her life gain, her mana gain, whatnot. Does poison stack? No, it'll just refresh. So, good life gain, decent fast rate recovery, decent block rate. Want to really look for things that are going to have either high damage. If you are going for physical bow, you want high damage. Otherwise, attack speed is very important, whether it's a bow or even for javelins, right? If I'm doing Lightning Fury, if I have 40 increased attack speed javelins, I'm doing way more damage than if I have 0% increased attack speed javelins, okay? So getting that is good. Yeah, I already warned about dodge locking. So yeah, really kind of note that sometimes something like plus skills and stuff like that and plus attack speed is better than having a weapon that does more damage. Because a lot of the skills here aren't using the physical damage. That's not a big important piece for you. Okay? So, that covers the Amazon. I think that's a pretty good introduction. Yeah, I guess we can really quick if we want to. We can look at, right? If I'm running this girl, let me back out some of these things. Let me just do this. Pump like this stuff up. Okay, if I'm running this character, what are some things I'm using? Early on, Blood Fist, right? Great. Life, attack speed, faster hit recovery. All that stuff's really good. If I want to get some crushing blow on my gloves, sure, that can be nice. A Raven Frost, some sort of cannot be frozen. Whoa, I have a perfect Raven Frost? That's cool. Bale drop that? I didn't know that. All right. A Raven Frost, so I can't be frozen. Pretty good for this girl. Okay. Rhyme Shield. If I'm a Javazon early on, I think that's one of the hacked ones too, Ubio. That's why it's in this stash. If I'm a Javazon early on, whatever, I love getting a Rhyme Shield. Once again, cannot be frozen. Super, super helpful. If I am a Bozon early on, one of my favorite things to get is a Zephyr. Right? Very simple, but it gives me faster run walk. It gives me increased attack speed. And like I said, if I'm shooting off freezing arrows or if I'm shooting off exploding arrows, a bow that has really fast attack speed is really a lot better for me. Stealth, right? This is kind of your basic faster run walk, faster hit recovery. This is the best armor on every character early game. Best armor that you'll find and can make there. So those are very good to have. And then just kind of all your basics, right? Just kind of all your basics. See what else I have over here. I have a lot of like early game stuff in here. But essentially, just look for things that are going to give you plus skills, things that are going to give you increased life, things that are going to give you increased attack speed. Cannot be frozen. Pretty good mod on her. And then resistances, right? Kind of that standard sort of stuff right there. Goblin toes or something? Yeah, goblin toes can be good. Like I'm saying, especially if you're running a physical build. Razor tail is a great item on her. That is very true. Razor tail is a great item on her because then you get that penetrate. Or pierce, not penetrate. Which one is it? Pierce. So, yeah. So that's good stuff. So that's the Amazon. Okay, let's switch over. I think we have enough on her. So, let's go look at the assassin, right? And let me get